Welcome back to the Morning Blend. One of the most stressful and complicated things about divorce is splitting assets, especially the family home. So how do you decide who keeps it, or if you're going to sell it, what's the best way to figure out the value? Jeffery Morrell is an attorney with Sterling Law Offices, and Jeff Hughes is the CEO there. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning, Molly. It's good to be back.
Good to see
Good morning,
you
Molly.
again. Good morning. All right, so Jeff, the last time you were on the Morning Blend, we talked about how emotional it is to decide what's in the best interest of kids. Is it just as hard, do you think, to make the right decision about the family home?
Well, it's a little less hard, but there are a lot of complex dimensions that are full of emotion and logic as you look at a house. It's one of the few areas of family law that really touches on both.
One of the things that I appreciate is that you're all about validating your clients' emotions, their feelings about something. Why do you think that's so important as a lawyer to factor in how people come to these decisions from an emotional standpoint?
Well, because we're people and our emotions drive our decisions. And a lot of times we'll use logic to justify our emotions. So if, as a lawyer, you don't get into that with a client and you don't really seek to seep into their heart and understand where they're at emotionally, you can't serve them as well. You can't be a fighter and an advocate for them as well as you could if you do that.
I know that in Wisconsin, in terms of the Marital Property Act, we're considered a 50-50 state. What does that mean?
Well, it means that upon a divorce, the judge is required to split the assets between the two parties 50-50, with some exceptions. Inherited property and gifted property would be some, and also the judge has discretion, so which means the judge can deviate from that if she wants to.
Okay, so Jeffrey, let me bring you in here. When it comes to deciding if one spouse will keep the house or if it's best to sell the house and split the value, what's the best way to determine the value?
The best way is probably getting a professional involved. So that's either going to be a realtor, real estate agent, or a professional appraiser. And there's pluses and minuses to both those options.
Do you find that people desperately want to do the right thing as it relates to the family home?
People really want to understand what the home's worth because it's such a major asset for most of us, right? The home is typically the largest asset we have, and we've put our sweat and our time into it in terms of paying the mortgage, making repairs and upgrades. It's really an emotional component of the divorce process, and so people have to work hard to make that decision the right way, whether I'm going to keep the house or let my spouse take the house, or whether we're going to sell it. That's a tough decision.
And as it relates to determining the value, do you think too often people rely on sources or things that aren't good determiners of what the value is?
Very frequently, and typically your lawyer will help you adjust that perspective. A lot of people will turn to the internet. There's a number of real estate websites like Zillow and so on that provide an estimate that's based on an algorithm, or they go on their tax assessed value, which is based on someone driving by your house. It's not based on what's going on inside the house or repairs that might be needed or upgrades you've made. So it's important to get a professional involved if the value of the home is in dispute.
You said a professional. So what is the best way to determine value then?
The absolute best way is to actually sell the house, because that's going to tell you what the market would pay for it. But in terms of hiring a professional, real estate appraisers are very helpful, and real estate agents can provide an estimate of what they would list the house for, and it's called a market value analysis. So either one of those can be useful, and they come with varying costs.
Great point. Jeff, when discussing the division of high value assets, what are some other concerns, other things that are of high value that you really have to factor in when people divorce?
Are you talking to me, Molly?
Yes, I am, Jeff. Sorry about that.
I wasn't sure what you're talking to. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at retirement assets would be generally the largest outside of the house. And that really represents blood, sweat, and tears over years. And it represents, to most of us, our future. And so when that's on the line, boy, that can be really scary. It can be very emotional.
So investments and retirement accounts, I always think that it's possible to forget about the debt.
Oh, yeah, especially with credit card debt, right? Because most families have it. and factoring that in because it certainly detracts from the overall value of the marital estate. So, and one party's got to take it. It's a marital property estate, meaning somebody's got to take it or split it somehow.
Yeah, exactly. That debt is important to factor in too. Okay, Jeffrey, now back to you again. What role does an attorney play when it comes to navigating the right way to divide marital assets? What role do you play in helping a couple do that?
I work really hard, and all of our attorneys do, in identifying with the client what their priorities are and what kind of outcome they're looking for. What are their goals? Do they want to buy a home of their own or a condo, or do they want to rent? Do they want to move? Once we identify what those goals are, we can help design solutions for them that meet those criteria. So if you want to go buy a condo after you get divorced, we can help make sure there's cash available sufficient in the settlement that you can go do that.
It's so complicated, I think, and it's wonderful to think that people not only are educated and experienced about how to divide assets, but also that your firm cares about people. I appreciate your time so much. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you, Molly.
And I know that you have some great references on your website. So first, I want to mention that Sterling Law Offices, it's a proud sponsor of TMJ4's ongoing campaign, We're Open, which we really appreciate. Thank you so much for that. And to learn more about Sterling, as I mentioned, those great resources online, you can visit them at sterlinglawyers.com.